information to the OEC.
Political censorship, the dramatic behind-the-scenes battle to strangle Channel 9's Worm.
Our other feed's gone now.
Falling through the cracks, how little Dean Shillingsworth was let down by welfare authorities.
More should have been done.
No escape, a truck ploughs into 9 cars stopped at roadworks at Heathcote. And easing the worry, the simple new test for meningococcal disease.
National 9 News with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. A war of words has erupted over last night's leaders' debate, but today's stoush wasn't between John Howard and Kevin Rudd. There's been a crossfire of criticism and claims of censorship sparked by Channel 9's Worm. Nine's political editor Laurie Oakes was part of the panel last night. Laurie, fair to say the Worm stole the show?
Yes, the Worm awarded the debate overwhelmingly to opposition leader Kevin Rudd, Mark, but behind the scenes there was high drama as the National Press Club tried to stop Nine from broadcasting the event. Kevin Rudd has a new hero, the Worm, and he joined toddlers at a preschool on the New South Wales Central Coast today to paint its portrait.
Do you reckon that looks like a worm at all? It does.
Mr Rudd likes the Worm because in last night's election debate, the Worm liked him, going up almost every time he opened his mouth.
You will get a 50% rebate for expenses of up to $750 or $1,500.
Mostly flatlining or going underground when the Prime Minister spoke.
Is that I have a fantastic team, and most of them are here tonight.
The Worm stole the ratings and maybe the show and survived 2 assassination attempts when the National Press Club, hosting the debate, tried to pull the plug on the Nine Network's feed of the telecast.
Our other feed's gone now.
The Prime Minister, in rules laid down by the Liberal Party, had tried to ban any TV channel from using the Worm, a computerised device which records the reactions of a group of swing voters to what's said during the debate. But Nine went ahead, and 6 minutes into the telecast came an SMS warning that the signal would be cut off if the Worm didn't disappear from the screen.
This is the most blatant act of political censorship I've seen for a long time.
This is Australia. It's not the Soviet Union.
John Howard denied any involvement.
The decision about the feed was taken by the National Press Club.
The instructions to try to put the Nine Network coverage off the air were issued by Press Club Chief Executive Maurice Riley after he consulted Liberal Party Federal Director Brian Loughnane. Mr Loughnane says he told Mr Riley, no, don't do it, but that advice was ignored. The Press Club claims that Nine breached an agreement not to use the Worm, but Nine's Director of News and Current Affairs, John Westacott, says there was no agreement or contract. The 100 Wormers gave Mr Rudd victory in the debate by 65 to 29, with 6 undecided. Most commentators agreed the Labor leader won, but by nothing like that margin. Mr Howard at times appeared nervous and edgy, but his performance was feisty, and he believes he got some important messages across.
What I liked about the debate last night was the opportunity to tell several million Australians that 70% of Labor's front bench in government would be former trade union officials.
Mr Rudd wants another debate and offered to take on 2 opponents next time, Mr Howard and his chosen successor, Peter Costello.
They want to play a tag team. Well, that's fine by me.
But the Labor leader is well aware that Mr Howard has lost debates in past campaigns and gone on to win the elections. Laurie Oakes, National 9 News.
Tonight, the family of a dead Sydney boy slams protection agencies for ignoring their warnings.
She really, really needed support, and she never got it.
Drivers trapped after a 14-vehicle pile-up in Sydney South. Claims free speech became worm food in the leaders' election debate. And Pink Ribbon Day promises new help for women with breast cancer.
This is 7 News with Ian Ross.
John Howard is refusing to say whether he'll agree to more debates after commentators awarded the first to Kevin Rudd, and the controversial Worm agreed. Joining us live from Canberra now is our political editor Mark Riley. Mark, seems the Worm is overshadowing the politics.
It certainly has, Ian. It's become a row over censorship after Channel 9's broadcast was interrupted. The National Press Club, which is supposed to promote free speech, pulled the plug when the Worm appeared. The morning after the debate, and some reviews were polite.
Morning, boss. Good morning.
Others not so.
No plan for the future. Absolute waste of space. You are a disgrace.
Visiting a childcare centre, Kevin Rudd helped paint the real star of the night.
Smiley one, is that all right?
But the worm was both star and villain. Channel 9's coverage was pulled because it used the worm against the debate rules.
Well, the National Press Club were controlling the broadcast, but clearly the sabotage, the instructions came from the Liberal Party.
But the Liberal Party director, Brian Loughnane, said he told the Press Club not to do it. All this debate about the debate threatened to overshadow the real thing, which covered a lot of ground and was often a testy affair.
No, that's pathetic. You were wrong and you knew it and you shouldn't have said it.
Mr Howard, I stand by everything the OECD has said.
Both men showed the pressure, Mr Rudd sweating noticeably, Mr Howard having trouble with a dry mouth, but making two significant announcements. A climate change fund to use pollution permit fees to subsidise power bills for low-income earners, and a changing of the role of our troops in Iraq to almost exclusively training Iraqi troops. That brought another testy exchange.
You chose to use it in a very political fashion.
Mr Rudd wants to do it all again with the Prime Minister and Treasurer.
I'd be delighted to have a debate where they shared it 50-50.
His chances aren't good.
Well, I thought we had a very good debate last night. It was a very lengthy one.
The only thing that might change John Howard's mind on that is if he gets bad poll results closer to voting day and feels that he has to do it again out of desperation. Ian?
OK, thanks, Mark. Mark Riley reporting. At least one body language expert agrees with the worm's view that Mr Rudd was the better performer. But the worm showed some bias, according to one bloke who should know best.
The common garden earthworm, spineless, slippery, a dirt dweller. Critics would say the perfect judge for a couple of politicians. But Clary Johnson, Sydney's biggest worm farmer, says the worm last night was suspicious.
I think he might have been a little bit biased. I'm not quite sure what that was about, but he definitely seemed like Kevin Rudd, didn't he?
He did. The worm turned upwards almost every time Mr Rudd spoke. But for Mr Howard, it repeatedly dived to the dirt.
That was an audience that had already made up its mind who it was in favour of, and I wonder how that audience was selected, quite frankly.
But 7 News spoke with one of the audience wormers. She denies any collusion or bias.
You had no idea whether you were sitting next to somebody who was voting Liberal or Labour, and nobody asked those questions.
The audience voted Mr Rudd clear winner, and leading body language experts agreed.
Kevin Rudd, he was the man last night. I mean, he looked the goods. He had the tie, he had the blow-dried hair.
At Sydney Boys High, they know a thing or two about debating.
And that's something which we think this side of the House isn't going to deny.
They failed both men on performance.
There was a little interjecting that shouldn't have happened. There was a little name-calling that shouldn't have happened. And really, there was a lot of missed moments where they just didn't talk about what they were asked.
It's still uncertain if that was the first and final debate of the campaign, so we might not have seen the last of the headline-grabbing worm. Either way, it's opened a can of controversy that can't be closed. Chris Reason, 7 News.
Good evening, Juanita Phillips with ABC News. One great debate is over, but another one has begun, this time over claims of bias, censorship and vote rigging. And it's all because of the infamous worm. The popularity meter had been banned from the broadcast of the leaders' debate, but the Nine network went ahead with it anyway, and as a result had its television feed cut. Nine cried censorship. The government denied it and said the worm was rigged anyway in favour of Kevin Rudd. Political correspondent Greg Jennett.
Forget centre stage, this is where the big debate began.
Channel 9 are using a worm.
Cue the director's cut.
Well, where did that worm come from?
Citing a breach of rules, the debate's hosts, the National Press Club, ordered the feed to Channel 9 be cut twice.
I know what happened. I mean, I think that the National Press Club and indirectly the ABC did the bidding of the government. I don't think they should have.
The ABC says it had no role in the decision. A ban on live worming had been one of the Liberal Party's conditions all along, but its director Brian Loughnane says when asked by the Press Club last night, he ordered that the feed not be cut.
The decision about the feed was taken by the National Press Club.
But theories over who else may have been behind the two attempts to stop it abound.
And there must be an inquiry into it.
It should be reported freely by anybody.
The Nine network claims it had never agreed to any ban, maintaining the political parties shouldn't get to decide what a free media can and can't do.
We should never accept the rules. The National Press Club, which is a licensed club in Canberra.
No worms, just plants for the Prime Minister, who's moved on from last night.